That was probably caught on film.
Awesome. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Hello, runners, and welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. My name is Dr. Cameron Garber here with Body Smart and bringing you the next installment of Wednesday Wisdom, where we're talking about hill training. So running up and down hills, which here in Utah, where we're at, you do quite a bit of. So hill training is an important part of running. There's a lot of benefits to hill training, as well as, if your race has some hills, you want to be able to make sure that you have the ability to power up and the ability to safely descend. The descent is what gets a lot of people injured. The climb up is what makes a lot of people bonk. And so training both aspects, and most people tend to only train kind of one aspect of downhill running. And so I want to talk a little bit about that as well today. So hill training, really, really important. We want to build the power to be able to power up the hill so that we don't bonk too bad, so that you have the strength in your legs and the endurance to be able to go up. So doing some hill training bouts are really important. You can do some longer climbs. Most people wind up going up doing intervals of hill training, where they do like sprints up the hill to build strength and power. And because a long, slow, steady climb is really hard to do. But I think it's also important to do a long, slow, steady climb every so often, especially here in Utah, where we have a lot of mountains and peaks and stuff. It's also just a fun way to get a good workout in. But doing those higher intensity bouts of uphill running helps you to improve your speed and your ability to tackle those hills. So really important to do some interval work or some uphill training at some point in time in your training, just to build up the strength of your muscles and build your ability to climb. Descending, though, in my opinion, for injury avoidance, training your descent is really, really important. And one of the things that I see a lot of runners here in Utah do, which isn't bad per se, but I think there's maybe a better way to do it, is they'll go pick a really super steep high canyon and just run down it for a few Saturdays right before the race. And so, 3 or 4 Saturdays before the race, they do their long run from the top of the canyon all the way down. And that's fine and great and all, except for if you haven't really done that much in your training until the last few weeks, and now you're just beating up your body really bad right up to the race. You may not be fully recovered before race day and feel kind of beat up. And we see a lot of injuries from that actually in the clinic, of people that do a last minute run down one of our big canyons to try to get some downhill training in. And I would argue that really the long, slow, like 12, 14, 16, 18 miles of downhill that way, even though that may be in your race, is something I would do earlier in my base building phase. And during my peak phase, I wouldn't do the long, slow, like 14 miles of straight downhill as much as I would do interval work downhill. So maybe even with a weighted vest, somehow overtraining that instead of just the long, slow, steady training with it. So where you're putting on a weighted vest and doing sprints downhill, working on the mechanics of the speed and getting a lot of overload, but in short bouts. So a couple of minutes tops. And then so where you sprint down and walk back up, where we normally will do the opposite, where we sprint up and then kind of jog down. I would sprint down and really overload and over impact so that your body has a chance to build itself back up. You're just doing it for much shorter bouts. So you're doing it for a few sprints downhill where you're really creating that overload. One of the things that we need to build something up in our body is the overload principle, where we overtrain it for a while and allow your body to build back up. So early on if you've done it well through your base building phase, where you've done some long, slow, steady runs, then during your peak phase, you can do that overspeed training and then allow your body to recover. So that's one of my favorite ways to be able to train downhill as well as uphill and build up your resilience and tolerance and your speed for running downhill, so you can make up a lot more time in the downhill and have it feel a lot more comfortable on your knees, hips, back, things like that. We see a lot of injuries from the downhill runs just because of that increased amount of force, and we're just not very good at it because we don't practice it well enough. And so when we have a big long downhill stretch, we see a lot of injuries from that post race. So let's incorporate those things into your training so that you don't wind up having those same problems and you can run and just bomb it down the hill. Send it and enjoy the fact that you've developed the ability to run quickly downhill in a safe way, and you can crush those races, those downhill races. You can PR and have fun. So if you have any questions about how you can incorporate this type of hill training, or you want some specific examples of some interval hill training workouts that you can do, definitely hit us up at Body Smart. We can send those to you. We would love to help you learn more about how you can maximize your performance so that you can stay healthy and on the road. That's what we do here at Body Smart, and we love helping runners just like you. So if you would love to get more of our Wednesday wisdom tips, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, join, whatever, all of those good things so that you can catch our next video. And I hope to see you on that one.